Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 143. I am joined by the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing, my good friend, Ronan Unchained. How are you, my friend? How's it going?
I'm doing good. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. I am happy that I could finally get you on the pipeline. It's been a long journey. It's been a really, on both of our sides, of just like elephant in the room all the way back, because we're in the same podcast circles. We we do council together, we do Party Nation together, we do all these various things together, and it was at a point where I'm like, I talk to this guy a lot. I want to get him on. I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want him to think I'm keeping him away. I don't want him to be a beef or anything. So I was like, hey, do you want to talk about Joker 2? Because it's a comic book movie. He's probably going to see it. That didn't pan out. You were technically on the show for like 2 or 3 minutes at the end of last year. We did like our end of the year episode. And then a lot of like various, obviously you've done my other show, so it doesn't feel like you haven't done the main show, but you're here. Welcome to a very special episode. And I want to say up front here, this is a pre-recorded episode of the Pipeline. It should still be live streaming when this is coming out, but I'm not here. I am not here. Like, I'm not physically here seeing what you guys are saying. So if you guys say any really cool, interesting comments or questions, I'm probably in a pool somewhere drinking something. I don't know. I'm not here right now. So, but thanks for watching anyways. Thank you for contributing to the channel and all of that fun stuff. Ronan, how are you? How have you been?
It's been an interesting time, to say the least. By the time we're recording this, a lot is going down, and so I'm doing my best not to lose my cool. But thankfully, stuff like art, stuff like comics, movies, shows exist. If not, I would literally have to go into the woods or like a cabin and be like, all right, everybody, leave me alone. Yeah, it's a fascinating time, especially for what we do. We're like, I can't speak for you, but like I'm setting stone on stuff I want to cover for my channel. That way I don't I lose my consistency, and I'm finding something that I don't have a deadline, and yet I need to have a deadline set for myself to put something out. So whether it's I want to talk about, I don't know, anime or manga stuff, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that until movies or shows start showing up that I want to talk about. And how does that dynamic feel now that that's not this 2 or 3 month span of like, all right, you got to edit this, and then don't forget the TikToks, and don't forget the shorts, because apparently that stuff is getting more views than the average stuff, and then don't forget to stream because we got to talk about this. And so it's a fascinating period now, and then we're about a little over a month away from Comic-Con, and I don't know what that's gonna entail. So it's I'm on airplane mode right now, I like to call it. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm like, all right, let's see what happens.
That's fair. Yeah, like, even as someone who's not as busy as you, and I know you're very busy, you're always working, you're always doing this stuff, as someone who is doing it more of like a hobby, it's a lot, even as a hobby, of being like, oh my gosh, we have a movie every single day, it seems, and new shows are coming out, and we're in so many podcast circles, and we're all doing podcasts, and there's so many different, Jurassic Park and Superman and Smurfs, and Fantastic Four, and like you said, Comic-Con is going to have, I'm not even going, and I'm like, yeah, but that's still going to be a thing you have to cover, you have to talk about. Like, I don't know how you do it, my friend. I don't know how you keep it together, but you somehow do.
I don't know either. Like, the best case scenario is if I got paid to do a lot of this stuff, that would ease off some tension.
Nice. Yeah.
But it's weird. I've seen some people be burned out by that, and I get that burnout. But somehow doing a video, I'm like, okay, I could just hone in on this And for an hour, I just edit something Stephen King related, or for depending when I get invited, 30 minutes or an hour, I can to join a stream, and who knows what's gonna happen in the stream,
Right.
but what happens. So I look forward to that stuff nowadays. And yeah, like between our community, it's just like it's a mad house, and I love that. I love that aspect of it.
100%, 100%. I mean, I think that's a really good transition to our Creator Spotlight segment, which is a good chance for me to have a more one-on-one conversation with the people I have on my show. Now, again, we know each other. At this point, I consider you a good friend of mine. We've talked a lot. And I really love getting to have the council family over here, because a lot of these people I know very well. I talk with them on the day. I mean, we talk at least 2 times a week, most of the times, if not more. But this does give me the opportunity to kind of get to know who you are and your past on YouTube and how you kind of got your start. So the basic question I usually ask everybody is, how did you get your start on the platform? If that's YouTube, if that's TikTok, if that's whatever, where was the, like, your name is Run Unchained. Was there ever a point you maybe were chained? Is like what's the origin on that side of things?
That's interesting. Yeah. So I think on social media, it's not on YouTube. I was always going by El Ronan for some reason. Yeah. And then I just shut down. And then when I started doing YouTube, I was like, let me just put everything Run Unchained. That way, people don't fully know my name, because I like that anonymity.
Yeah.
And keep it consistent. I believe I started either late 2015 or somewhere in 2016, and it was I had just started college, and you hear this, I remember being like, oh, cool, I don't have to worry about 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. school anymore. I can do whatever I want. And then I remember signing up for stuff, and I was like, I don't want to do this. What the hell am I going to do? And I remember 2015, 2016 were very important years for me, because I found the class that studied film, and I was like, we get to go to school and watch movies and we do this stuff. What the? And then around that same time, I discovered Kevin Smith's Comic Man TV show on Netflix and Blade Runner. And I was just like, it's not just the stuff that they showed us in the movie theaters. We could do all the stuff or not. And Kevin Smith was someone who had a huge impact on my life, because he was this guy who was in his 40s or 50s. I forget, Mr. Smith, forgive me if I'm throwing this number down. Who was later in his life and was willing to be as geeky as I was. And I was just like, that's allowed?
Yeah.
And, I didn't really spend too much time on YouTube at that point. I think for good reasons. Like, I stayed away from that. And I think the big bang for having any interest in that was, being introduced to Kevin Smith and seeing people's response to the Force Awakens teaser or official trailer. And I remember getting emotional and me being pumped for that movie, and then seeing people's reaction to it. I was just like, I like that. Can I be a part of that? I want to be part of that. And again, I look back at it now. I haven't seen it in a while, but like, I remember my first video I put up, it's just a camera in my garage and my friends just at a table talking to each other. And I was just like, I look at it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, the lighting, it looks so, but I was like, oh, we're doing the thing that I see that the people doing. And
yeah,
I learned basic editing. I'm still not great at it, I don't think, but that was the ball rolling of like post high school, where I didn't talk about this stuff as much as I was into it. But now early young adult phase, and people are into it, and I'm like, all right, I want to be part of that. And then I discovered people like the guys now, that's their third channel, but the Heroes Before guys. I discovered Akasan, I discovered The Real Rejects, Blind Wave, and I was just like, holy shit, like, they're older than me. They're like my cousin's age, and yet they're just as geeky as I am. And so that's where that happened. And then 9 years later, I'm still doing this stuff right now. So
that's incredible. That is a commitment that I feel like a lot of people don't have. And I think, at least from my POV, it's at least paid off, because I see you doing all these really cool things. I see you interviewing these amazing people. I see you working with these incredible individuals and having these amazing experiences. And I was like, that is someone that I think knows what he wants, and he's not going to let anyone tell him he can't do it. And that's something that I respect the hell out of you. And I think you are one of the people that in this little space we have, I can look at you and be like, he's doing it right. Like he is gardening the space that he wants to see more in this community. You are easily one of the most positive, the most upfront and like genuine people I've met while doing this whole journey. And so like in some ways I think you're like an inspiration. Like you're like one of the people I'm like, yeah, I want to try and do more like that, and look what he's trying to inspire out into the world. So I think you're doing something right. I really do.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, I put that blame on, again, my folks don't get what I mean, they kind of get what I do, but they're like, okay, I guess you're good at it, I do your things. I blame them for that. And then like a lot of those names I mentioned, like I didn't know. Oh man, like I look back at some of those old videos, I didn't know how to speak to the camera, how to manage this.
Yeah.
And again, and I don't tell these people that much. Like I see a lot of these creators, their old videos, a lot, often. To remind myself, all right, this is how the energy was,
yeah,
and how even it's still with them now. But you know that there's been mileage and time and experience change that. But I still need that, kinetic dynamite energy, and so I go back to and rewatch a lot of stuff. I do a lot of that with our podcast. Sometimes I'll rewatch stuff from our first times we talked to now. Just to get a bit of someone, messing up or saying something. I was just like, it's the madness that I look back and be like, I need to remind myself of that, not be jaded by too much stuff, even though there's a lot to get jaded by these days.
Yeah.
I blame all those people I mentioned for that. If there's any talent, if there's any good into it, if you will, and whatnot, especially like, the best part of all this stuff is just like, all right, I've now joined two different communities. They're essentially one community, but two different dynamic groups, and yet we all mangle with each other, and yet we have definitive, fascinating, different dynamic with each other, and we still all get along for the most part.
Yeah. No, I think I think you brought up something very important to like anyone that wants to do anything. If this is what we're doing, if you're singing, if you're writing, I think the most important key to any of it is just you gotta just do it. Like you have to put it out there, and like you're going I know that sounds like such a basic thing to say, but I think people who do it for the first time be like, well, that sucked. Now I'm doing something else, and like I'm guilty of that myself, of being like, oh, I'm not good at that, so I'm done. And it's like, well, no, got to do it for a while. Sometimes an annoyingly long time, and like just doing this show, like I every 6 months I look back at the previous 6 months and be like, man, that guy sucked. That guy wasn't good at this. And then in 6 months from now, I guarantee I'm going to do that again. But like this episode with Roden, I was doing terrible. And it's like slowly seeing myself evolve over the. You just gotta keep going, 100%. And then you do like a lot, like you go to a lot of places, you do a lot of things. Do you have any favorite memories going all to these various places? Like I know you went to Japan a couple weeks ago, right? For a Star Wars thing. That's insane. Like is that up there in terms of what you've got to do?
Yeah, it's weird. I'm in my late 20s, but I feel emotionally and like mentally that like I just turned 2021, and I feel like this decade I've lived now, I should have lived it during high school. I think it would have helped out a lot in the mid-20s and then in the 20s. But yeah, Japan was extraordinary. I mean, there's stuff in the private life that like I still have to manage that it could have enhanced the experience way more. But first of all, it's expensive as hell to go there, but I remember going, like, I'm not just doing this selfish, like, I need to get out of the house. I need to get out of the country just to shake something up and whatnot. And, Japan is up there because, I went to a place I've wanted to go for a long time for the first time. I did on my own, no family. I met a mutual friend of ours, Busy Braun, for the first time in person after doing this, what we're doing, years virtually, and like it was a cool moment to meet him for the first time. I got to reunite with other fellow friends like Kyle Katar and Akasan. I met the normies for the first time, so it was a very like sweetening experience of like different country, different vibe of day-to-day life for a week. Language, all this stuff, just shaping up your normal day-to-day. Like sometimes stuff like this or something like, or like Comic-Con, I need it not because of as of a vice, even though it probably is a vice. I just needed to shake off my day-to-day things because I don't think I'm at a comfortable phase yet in my day-to-day to warrant not wanting to travel. So I need to travel. I need to do that stuff. So yeah, most definitely Japan is up there. I know when I went to England for the first time for Star Wars Celebration again, that was a cool thing because that was the first time I traveled on my own. I went internationally, and then I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble, even though I would like to gamble a little more. But Comic Cons, that's my thing. That's what I'm like. All right, for a weekend, even though it goes a gas, I just get to let loose for a little bit and just do something that I don't care if anybody else isn't doing it or not. I'm like, I'm into it.
That's fair. That's fair. No, like I definitely get what you're saying about needing to get out of your own environment. Like I think that is so crucial for anybody. Like as someone who lives in like, you know, a little town in Ohio and doesn't get out a lot, right? I do would recommend to anybody anytime you get to go out. I'm this is being pre-recorded because I'm going to Tennessee in a couple of days for vacation with my family, and like that time of year is so special to me because I didn't grow up doing any of that. You know, I didn't go out of the country, or I didn't go out of the like state for the first time until I was like 18, 19. So it's like those moments are special, especially when you are enclosed, when you're, especially like us, because we're in our chairs a lot, right? Like we're in front of these screens, we're sitting sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours on end, and then you get up and you go to work and then you do the same thing the next day. So it is important to have those times of the year where it's like, okay, this is my own space. I get to relax. Even if you're not like, even if you can't afford to go somewhere, I recommend, and this is what I do a lot, I change my whole setup a lot. I change my room. I move where certain things are because your brain, that helps your brain to be like, oh, this is a new space. This is something fresh and new. And even if you're like at your work, just like maybe mix up how you go about doing certain things can be very helpful as well.
Yeah, I wish I would do that more. I remember I did initially. I took a bit from it, but like I would always have something in the background up. But like once in a while, I have here an X-Men poster, and I have something of Last of Really. I'm like, okay, this is the stuff like I need energy from, and that's why I'm a collectible. A bunch of stuff. Like I have so many damn posters, but like I remember hearing Guillermo del Toro saying that he has his own house where he has all his collectible stuff, and the reason why is because A, he's a nerd, but B, he uses that to get energy out of it. So if he needs to write something and wants to do research, he has that kinetic stuff to give a different vibe, like much like you do with switching up your setup.
Yeah, if it does frustrate me because I have like hundreds of Funkos and none of them really fit behind me when I do this show to show them off. It's like no one can see all the stuff I got. Oh no. But no, that's incredible. And if you were to kind of wrap up the segment, like if you were to let people know something about you that they may not know already, or they might not assume about you, what do you think that would be?
Damn. I don't know. Like maybe I should do more. Like I'm Latino, even though with Among Us that's almost a bit nowadays. That I'm like, oh, he's the Latino in the group. I guess that I'm into. It's weird. Someone told me I've heard a couple of times throughout my life that like you have an old soul. What I mean, like, look what you're into. I'm like the music I'm into is very old. There's not that much modern stuff. Movies I'm into, a couple of modern stuff, but like mostly it's just old stuff. So yeah, I have It's weird. I have a range of likeness when it comes to almost everything: comic books, manga, films, television, women. I guess I don't know. It's fascinating. Like I can't do just one genre. Like I have such
Mm,
I respect people who are just into this one thing and that's it. And
yeah.
I'm like, and you know me, like I love Star Wars. I will camp out for these events or do the movie marathons at movie
Hmm.
theaters. But it's not the only thing I can do. I have to
Right.
do stuff and whatnot. So I have there's not just one thing Ronan is into. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and so that's what I'm trying to do with my channel. I remember people, and you probably heard of that. People have said, you should do multiple channels. You should do a Star Wars channel and do
Yeah.
a lot. I'm like, sure, it might give me my numbers going up and whatnot, but like it would take so much space to people know. And it's like, no, I want it to be like, if you want to know who Ronan is, just look up his channel
One
or his
channel.
socials,
Yeah.
and it's somewhere in there you'll find out who he is through his choice of conversations, movies, shows, books he's covering, or his music. It's like you'll know
Right.
who I am that way.
Amazing. Amazing. Obviously, go check out Roden's channel. He has a whole a fantastic collection of fantastic reactions and commentaries and live streams, which I've been on a couple of. Of course, you could do your shout out again at the end of the show, but I wanted to plug it right here while you're already talking about it. But with that being said, I think we're going to transition into a couple of news stories. Now, these pre-recorded ones are always tough because I also have to film another episode of this in a couple of days due to when this is due. This is not my normal episode. So I was looking at some news stories that I had made for previous episodes that I actually didn't talk about in those said episodes due to just, time-wise. Both of these stories, though, kind of go together as they are connected to the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. These are both MCU related to that upcoming film. Things that have been said about two particular actors about that upcoming movie that I wanted to go over. Now we did our 3-hour Avengers Doomsday chair stream a couple of months ago at this point, which
That was a blast. Like chaotic in hindsight, and I get people saying that, but
genuinely probably some of the most fun I've had by doing this. I had so much fun. Just clearing down those highlights were this was a genuinely real thing that I feel like I often on the show. I overproduce everything. Like I have ADHD, so it's like, okay, I have the next 6-7 weeks scheduled out of what I'm doing on the exact end and what we're talking about, and that was a of the day thing. I got home from work. I guess I'm streaming. I didn't know who was going to be there and who wasn't and what was going to happen in said thing, and it was such a cool experience, I think, for our little community that we've built.
yeah.
And this first story kind of goes along with one of those reveals. And I think we talked about this a little bit in that stream as well, but I do want to bring it up. Tom Hiddleston says he does not want to die in upcoming Avengers Doomsday. Now, I know that this doesn't sound like a big story, but I do think there is a little bit behind that. I do think there is a little conversation to be had there because I feel very similarly to this. He is the character to die to the point where it's a bit at this point. Every time it happens, here we go again. How long is it gonna? How long can we possibly continue to do this bit where he dies, but he's not actually dead? And I think him coming back into the main MCU now that we are post that Loki series, which I fundamentally love. I loved the Loki series and this version of the character. So I think stepping back into the main MCU with Chris Hemsworth, Downey, and the whole kind of main cast that we're dealing with here, it does stand a good question: what kind of role can he play, and will he ultimately die again, or will someone else kind of be holding that role in this next upcoming Avengers movie, kind of thing?
To me, one of the best things that the Loki TV series accomplished is that he didn't die at the end. That
Yes.
he selflessly knew what he had to do, and he embraced it. And that's how it ends with that he showed that shot of him embracing being the keeper of stories, and that look that. And I thought that there is a conversation to be had of like, what does that take away from the impact of, you are not a god versus Thanos? And
Yeah.
I really do think that like, don't kill him off in Doomsday. But if you're really gonna close the book on Loki and Tom Hiddleston's era, you
Mm-hmm.
do that at the very end of Secret Wars. And you do it in a way where even he and his brothers like have that like peace moment of like going back to like, Loki, I thought the world of you, and I thought we were gonna do things together, why not? But like have that
Mm-hmm.
and not have anything like you look back at what you're gonna do with the character and be like, is there anything unresolved or
Right.
anything we should finally address? Just let it out and be like, right, we made peace with it, and see where we go from that. But yeah, I it would be so. I almost feel like it'd be like a decision made for like as a meme or as something to blow up on social medias and TikToks, if you will.
Right.
Like, oh, he died again in Doomsday, and it's just like, no. At this point, like I said, it's an easy critique of like, does death count in the MCU?
Right.
Eventually some of these folks come back, and so I hope that like, and also, but also that throws in a wrench of like, okay, you're gonna keep him alive. You better come up with a great story and a great reason why he
Yeah.
stays alive. A great arc of why he has still a presence felt, and not just by mention, but like by actually being there.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, because I do feel like this has to be a close for a character like Loki. Like, as much as I adore Tom Hiddleston's Loki, like, he's been in this universe for so long now, and he had such an amazing journey through the Loki series. And I don't see a world where Tom Hiddleston continues to play the character past Secret Wars, right? I feel like this is, unless we do a Thor 5, which I know is still on the table potentially, so maybe. But even if that's so, like, I do feel like we are heading onto a new ending point for a lot of the current roster of those characters introduced in phase 2 and phase 3 and stuff like that. I think Tom Hiddleston is one of those characters, not that he was introduced in 2 and 3, but I think like a lot of those characters are, again, like we were at the end of Endgame, probably going to be heading their way out here pretty soon. And then that comes up with the question, like, okay, if you don't kill him, what is his ending? Because the end of Loki could have been, right? Like, that is a very, very, fantastic, end, at least stopping point for a character. Not that you can't see him again after that, but like, that is such a bombastic move. It's like, okay, where are we taking this character post Loki? Like what is he going to, like, what is his role in Doomsday even going to be? Is it going to be a MacGuffin kind of role where it's like, we gotta find Loki because he's holding the strings and kind of thing? So that's going to be very interesting as well.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna treat him like Vision in Infinity War.
Yeah.
In some regards, I hope they don't, because I'm like, I could see that from a mile away. If anything, it would be interesting that he's one of the main reasons that they're aware of this looming danger, and that like, don't do it for too long, but don't do it for this too short of a moment of like, he meets up with some of the OGs and be like, I know you hate my guts. Trust me, I'm on your side. Where's Thor? Or, whatnot. Like he'll vouch for me and whatnot. Like, and have that moment. And then for the first part of that movie, being like, we're really gonna have to work with this guy. And like, even mentioned like I went through something like the TVA is a thing and whatnot. And yeah, I'm very, very fascinated to see how that angle's gonna play out. And like, I know Tom he talked to Josh Howard and be like, I haven't read the script, but I know stuff and whatnot. And I'm like,
right.
I love the interviews because I'm like, how much did you know before the movie even comes out, before even a trailer comes out? Like, what do you know now that we don't know already?
Right.
And I've always said this, that like, I think after a certain point, if he isn't to say goodbye definitively, and you need to have a Loki-esque presence in the MCU, Sophia's there. Sylvie, I think is the next thing you can easily do and be like,
sure,
that character goes and what that brings to the MCU. I think.
And like, TVA is something that I hope we're not done with necessarily.
Please.
Like,
Oh yeah,
I mean, I pitched after season 2, like I'd love this like Agents of Shield style like TVA series. You know, as much as I love Tom Hiddleston, like maybe without Tom Hiddleston, maybe grow up that cast. I don't know if Owen Wilson would do another like TV show in the MCU, but like I'd love to see a show revolving around him as almost your like new Phil Coulson-esque character, right? Like I think that like that show was like I think one of the closest I had felt to like it feeling like a genuine television cast. Like each character felt like they had so much life behind them, and I wanted to spend more time with every single one of that cast and stuff like that. So yeah, no, that's going to be very interesting. And again, like a thing that I imagine that we will continually talk about as we get closer to the movie, as we learn more, as we learn his role. I haven't seen him on set at all either. Like I haven't seen him like with the cast or anything like that. So I'm wondering if is he going to be just in that little realm place he is the whole movie, and that's why we haven't seen him, because it's more so CGI stuff with him, or he's more isolated with like I don't know, maybe Doctor Doom or something. I don't know. So that's also got to be interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we bring up a similar conversation post FF, because a lot of people are saying, and I kind of figured it out by just the visual look of the trailers, but I'm like, you see a lot of Reed Richards tech design wise in the Baxter building, and it's very, very similar to what the TVA has set up in their structure, if you will. Yeah, when it comes to the cast, I think it's gonna be so interesting with this whole year that like you got to play it smart and yet sway us by thinking we know stuff because we're in the digital age, and yet we probably don't know at all what's going down. And so like putting some of those cast photos, oh, they're together. Does that mean? And it's just like, no, it's not. We just did that to throw you guys.
Sure. It would be fun. People would hate this, but it would be fun if one or two of those chairs were fake. You know what I mean? If like a couple of those were like, you thought Joseph Quinn was in here, but he died in Fantastic Four. We're like, no, this is crazy.
Oh no.
Oh no, absolutely. And then the other story I have here. Now this one I think has a little bit more meat on its bones, especially comparatively to what show is about to come out. It's about to air in a couple of next week after that, pretty darn soon. Dominique Thorne seemingly announces that she is an upcoming Avengers Doomsday. So this was very interesting to me because, you know, obviously Ironheart comes out in a couple of weeks now. It's in, like week and a half, week or so. So like that's been a big topic of conversation about like, what are they doing with the show? And I have very much disliked what seemingly is the marketing from that show. Like I love that trailer, but it seemingly is like, well, guys, just let's throw it out. The rumor is it's going to be a 6-episode show premiered over 2 weeks, 3 and 3, which, you know, again, maybe we're wrong. Maybe this isn't what they're trying to do. But to me, it felt like they were just trying to throw it out. They're like, guys, it's here, just have it, just whatever. And I think that's led a lot of people to believe, like, well, we're done with the character. We're not seeing this character again. She's done. And to me, that wouldn't make a lot of sense if she is appearing in Avengers Doomsday. If she is a character that we're going to frequently see going forward, why are they kind of doing the promotion as they're doing? And then when the movie comes out, people are like, wait, who's that? I don't remember that character. What is she from? Does she have a show? Oh, she does? I didn't see it, you know? So that is kind of my concern there a little bit.
Yeah, I've been concerned about it for the sake of the character and the actress, just because I like the actress. The character was fine for me in Wakanda Forever. And they announced the show so long ago, and they had shown footage of it so long ago, and it's like, and now it's just coming out, and it's like, am I even gonna have the energy or intrigue to check it out and cover it? Like I want to out of like respect for the MCU and Marvel and whatnot, but like they haven't done a good job to like making me lead up and be like, all right, that's worth giving a try for. And I agree that like you already introduced the character, so don't start just throwing her off just because they didn't meet we didn't sell enough toys or whatnot, whatever may have you. Like, don't do that, because scientific character. We're bringing in Reed Richards. We're bringing in I hope Mark Ruffalo, and it's like you have all these scientific minds.
Right.
Why would
Shuri.
yeah, Yuri? Why wouldn't you bring in Riri Williams and see how that dynamic plays out? And yeah, it's such a fascinating odd thing of like within 2 weeks, stories done and out,
Yeah.
and does this. It's a fascinating thing, and I think we've talked about it. How like a lot of these shows and a lot of these specials, I hope we get more of. They have to do the job of like it has to be its own thing, and yet be have some connection to the MCU. That way, when again the character does appear again, we're not going who we're going oh Riri, okay, cool. Like that's something that like I've been worried even going up to Doomsday. I'm like, okay, what does this mean for Shang-Chi? What does this mean for Jennifer Walters? What does this mean to Steven and Mark of Moon Knight? What does this mean for Riri? Like to me,
Yeah.
the better scenario or best outcome they had gone to this point with a new character was what happened with Kamala, where show and then immediately it was like in the Marvels, and then by the Marvels came out, I think everybody naturally was like, well, she was the best part. She stole
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I hope Dominic Thorne gets that similar but different scenario. But yeah, it's I do feel bad for what she's gone through
Right.
in terms of marketing and reception, and the reason why I haven't been promoting that much is just because that's the missing link I needed. I'm not trying to speak about it because I know stuff, even though I
Mm.
am a Marvel fan, but I also don't want to be disingenuous. And
Right.
I rather have someone who's been very much looking forward to this show and this character to have that the views go to them and be all right. Someone's thrilled about this and they're ecstatic about it. All right, let's see what they have
Right.
to say about this. And if I remember or if I have the energy by the time it does come out, I'll give it a try. Like
Right.
I tried out Echo, I tried out Agatha and whatnot. As a whole, they weren't my cup of teas, but I did give them a try, and I was like, all right, I covered them to an extent, and so it's just a fascinating dynamic. And her letting, because again, I didn't know if she did tell people that she was leaving Doomsday. I'm like, well, hopefully that doesn't change anything for you because the movie comes out in a year and a half. So hopefully, and then, again, a lot of stuff, there's
Yeah.
cut out of movies.
Mhm.
People have been replaced and whatnot.
Yes.
And so I hope nothing happens to her about that. But if she is, good on her. That's
Yeah.
good exposure for her career. And like again, a lot of these characters sometimes when they have their first projects, they're like, okay, that was a good project. And then when they do some of these team ups, they are below. Like I remember going out of
Right.
Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange. I love that first movie, and I like the
Mhm.
character. But I remember feeling all right after Infinity War. People love Doctor Strange.
Loved him. Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely happens a lot, and I think you're right about the like. I hope she's right about that because like she's one of the first people to have outright said, "Yeah, I'm in it," and it's like, oh, that's like so far it's been very very secretive. Like even a character like Kate Bishop, which is seeming like she might be in the movie. Like there's been a lot of rumors about that, but she has not. Like she's been like, I can't say anything, guys. Don't ask me about it. So yeah, that's definitely very a little bit concerning on that side of things. Of like, oh, I hope she doesn't get in trouble. I hope nothing happens because she says that, or maybe it's a misinformation. Like maybe she's in. I don't think this would happen. But like maybe she's in Vision Quest and she was wrong, and she's not in event. Something like that kind of thing. But if this is true, this would be the first official confirmation of a character of one of our Young Avengers type characters to be confirmed for the movie, right? Because we don't know about Kate Bishop, we don't know about Miss Marvel, we don't know about Billy or Tommy or Skull or any of these various different characters that have been around that might be involved in something like this. So I'm wishing her the best, and I'm curious to see where her show ends. And she had also said like recently, like, yeah, we don't know if we're getting a season 2. I was like, yeah, that seems like that's very unlikely at this point, unfortunately. But maybe we'll see. One last thing I do want to bring up here, just really, really quickly, because this is going to be like so out of date by the time this episode comes out, but this has been going around my around the cycles over the last couple of days, and I everyone in our friend group has kind of been talking about it, but I do want to bring it up because I do think it's really silly. I think stuff like this is very silly. So Superman comes out in a couple weeks, which is what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? It's crazy we're here. And I don't know how you've been feeling, and I don't even really know what side of the camp in terms of like the DCEU and stuff like that you are, but I feel like the like really toxic Snyder people have been horrible, like way worse than they've been previously. Like they've always been bad, but I think they're slowly realizing their era is over, and I think they're getting, very, very desperate. And I've seen a couple of posts like this, but I think something like this is very interesting, where they're going out of their way to be like, hey, not even not supporting it. Like I think it's one thing to go on here and be like, hey, don't support this movie if you want the Snyder, whatever. You're wrong, but like I think that is technically within your right. But this is so absurd to me to be like, post spoilers everywhere because people are less likely to see a movie if there are spoilers, which that one I think is unfortunately the most likely to happen, even if you're like, not only these people, but also just like everyone are going to be posting spoilers immediately. What's your thoughts on just like that part of it? Just like people posting spoilers to deter people from watching a movie.
To me, I always been like, the day of a big movie or show, I tend to be light on social media.
Yes, agreed.
Just to avoid the possibility of getting spoiled, because I think most of us have done a good job of like we speak about it after we've watched said thing.
Yeah.
Like our non-spoiler thoughts, and then because it's so much energy and like something big happened, we have to talk about it. If not, that kinetic electricity, it just goes gone. Even if you talk about it the next day or within a week or so. But them wanting to post spoilers for the sake of trying to bring down the film, that's from like, all right, well you're a sore loser and a worse winner, if you will. And like that, I don't need that energy in my life. I don't need that, dynamic in my algorithm. I don't need that, popping up on my feed when I'm on any social media, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've not avoided it. I've seen that. And then much like people on dating apps, just swipe. Like, no, thank you. I'm like, I don't need this in my life. Like, again, and we've talked about it. I'm a Zack Snyder fan, but I'm going to choose my words right. I was a DC fan before I was a Zack Snyder fan. So, and people realize that DC existed before Zack Snyder did. Yeah. It didn't start at Man of Steel, although I like Man of Steel up to a point. And I see a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, why aren't you throwing this energy into promoting something like Twilight of the Gods? I was promoting the living hell out of that show when it was coming out. Yeah. I've heard an ounce out of a season 2 or anything off with that, and to me, that's been probably my favorite thing that Zack Snyder's put out. Yeah. And I don't get why there's still this much language to see that. And I think I've told you, and I've told others that, like, hey, you know what? If they give him a shot again at being part of the DC, cool. I'll be intrigued by it. Yeah. But if it doesn't come to fruition, there's plenty of other stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should just be his vision. Just like I don't think, we're just going to be seeing James Gunn stuff.
Yeah.
In the DC, I can't wait to see. We've talked about, but like
other voices,
something, or the Supergirl film, or the Lantern show. Like, I'm so interested to see how these different stuff coexist in a universe. And to me, if James Gunn, if DC or Zack Snyder is hearing this or watching this, I think a good thing to probably just put this to bed and let this rest and be like, people, be done with this. Let's move on in a healthy way. Is if at the Superman premiere, you see good old Zack and Deborah Snyder walk on the premiere walk, and they're there to
support. That'd be cool.
People be like, "Oh my gosh, traitors!" And it's just like, no, they're here to support it because they like movies. And someone else. Here's the thing, people. I think people don't realize that even if Zack did more stuff, eventually someone else would do another Superman related thing. There's
Yeah.
been two or three shows
Yeah.
since Steel of related to Superman. So like I'm like, come on, y'all. Let's ask for a Twilight of the God season 2. Or like let's
Yeah.
go. Like this feels like high school stuff. This feels like
It is.
from
Yeah.
middle school that isn't worthy of spending time and energy into. I think.
100% agree. Yeah, and like even when like back when like Black Adam came out, like everyone was calling Henry like a traitor. Like, how could you without Zack Snyder? And it's like, what do you want? Like, what do you really want? Because he stepped away. He didn't want to. He was done with all of that shit, and that's fine. I'm so happy for him. And people was like, no, it's not DC if it's not them. And it's like, this is so ridiculous. I want to just read this second part here, and then we can move on from it. Because, like I said, yeah, I don't want to focus too much on the negativity of it all. But I thought this one was the most ridiculous one. Leave bad ratings on review sites. We know for sure gun bots will post fake positive reviews, so we must let people know the truth. Isn't that hilarious? It's not hilarious to be like, people must know the truth by lying to them. Like, that's a hyperbole. That is the most hypocritical, like, mental ill thing I've ever heard. And like, I see stuff like this, and I think, I hope you can get some help, because to me that is just weird behavior, and I hope they can grow from that, I guess.
Even the third one of like the whole like reserve tickets, but don't buy it. That way it takes away space when people are trying to get out.
Crazy.
I see this stuff and I'm like, I'm pretty sure in The Simpsons or South Park or other these cartoon shows are very parody. They would make up scenarios like this. Yeah. Make fun of it. I'm like, look at this. Some people do this in the basement and whatnot. I was like, no, people are actually trying to do this nowadays. And it's just like, Jesus, man. Like, I thought my social skills were low, and I see this stuff, and I'm like, I'm fucking shaft compared to that. I'm like, Jesus.
Oh yeah, and thankfully, it seems like whoever's running that like Reddit page like took that down, and it seems like most people in there was like, yeah, dude, this is weird. This is like, you don't represent us. And obviously he's going to represent some people, obviously, but it seems like I do a really bad job sometimes, because sometimes I look at the whole community and be like, you guys are all so toxic, when they're not. There's a lot of people, some of our very good friends like that universe and love what they did, and you even said that like you're a fan of it, and I have to think, I'm like, okay, yes, it's not the whole community, it's several very loud apples that are ruining it for the whole bunch, kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see the next couple weeks and how we progress over what's to come in terms of the Superman marketing, and are they going to get crazy or are they going to start simmering down once the movie finds footing?
I really like it. Would be I would love to really have a sneak peek of what it'd be like if post Superman and post Fantastic Four, both movies are box office smashes and critically acclaimed. Like, people really like those movies, and it's like, all right, what's who's gonna try to throw the first stone at any of those two movies, and what are they gonna say? And it's like, no, it's a good movie. Yeah, it sucks that like that the way stuff went down in the past, but like Hollywood doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. Hollywood doesn't stop for a lot of stuff going on. Like, there's so much to do, and again, we talked about it when it comes to stories and different interpretations of characters. The movies are there. You can go watch the movie on Blu-ray or on DVD or on 4K or on digital. Like, if you like a specific iteration of a character, go read the book again. It's there. I just because there's some stuff in Star Wars that I dug, some stuff I haven't. Mm-hmm. The stuff I haven't. There's different versions of said characters and stories. I can go back and watch said stories and characters back there, like, no problem. Like, I don't have to waste time on this, if you will, just to have my 2 cents put out there and see if anyone acknowledges, if you will. And like, I look at it now, and there's some stuff that I cover that people don't really care about. I'm like, cool. I'm not gonna make 25 videos a day or a week
Yeah.
to let people know, and I'm like that comes off very psychopathic in people, and I just like,
Agreed.
man,
Like my favorite version of Superman is Tyler Hoechlin. I love him so much. He's my Superman, and that show ended basically as soon as this new one started to get going in terms of filming and stuff like that. And I could have easily, I think, I would be more valid than even the Henry Cavill people that are like, man, like our version gets taken away as theirs come in. Like I could have easily been like, nah, I'm mad at James Gunn for quote unquote canceling our show. But it's like, no, he had 4 seasons. He had, many crossover events and appearances, and he was almost Superman for 10 years, and he did a great job. And as sad as I was to let him go, I could be like, okay, he's done. What is next? What is the next version of this character going to look like? And I'm definitely very excited about that. So without further ado, I want to we're jumping into the our MCU retrospective portion of this episode.
Yeah.
Now, Ronan, we've been going through, I think since October, we've been going through the MCU on the show, and it's been a very, very fun journey. And I was been very much looking forward to this episode of it. And I want to say up front, this is the Thor: The Dark World, kind of, but mainly the Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So let me start off with just Thor really quickly, because I didn't want to do a whole episode on it. I think this is technically my least favorite MCU movie, and I think it's just because, and like I know a lot of people, there's some newer ones like a Quantumania or Love and Thunder, but I think it's my least favorite because it just doesn't have anything to say either way. And I think to me that's the worst thing a movie can be. Like I can look at Love and Thunder, and there's at least a lot to talk about with that movie. There's some good things in there. There's also some bad things, but at least they were trying something with that movie. And there's I think the worst thing a movie can be is boring, and Love and Thunder is certainly not boring. I think it's the least thing from boring in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think with a movie like this, I'm, as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, what can I possibly say about this movie when it comes to recording? And I didn't have much to say. It just it's not bad at any point. I don't think it comes in, it does this thing, and it leaves, and it's I don't have anything either way on it. So, I mean, I know you didn't. Obviously, you hadn't seen it in years. You had said previously that you had no memory of it. But what's your just general thought on that movie?
I just remember that the one thing they didn't mess up with that movie, or the one thing that movie accomplished, was that the dynamic between Thor and Loki, between Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston, continues to be just as strong.
Agreed.
And to me, it was so weird that this was showing the first things of what it is to be a trilogy in the MCU that doesn't involve Avengers. And you compare it to the new ones, and that's why I don't think it's my least favorite MCU film, but it's down there because you can say oh, this was the early stages of the MCU. I'm but even then, you take away the MCU stuff, just at a basic film movie level, you got to do something that, again, like we've said, on its own it has to stand, and then it has to be complementary to the world or the universe that exists.
Yeah.
And the thing with the new movies, it's just okay, we've been doing this for a while now. We sort of should know how to do it, and the fact that we've had these drastic missteps, it's what hurts it a lot.
Yeah.
Of you really, someone really had a gun to your head of I gotta put the movie out and this is the best we do. It's no, you don't have to rush a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what goes down to who's in charge and demanding movies to come out. But with Thor and Dark World, it was something that Endgame did enhance a little bit of it, where I remember even when I first saw Dark World, all right, I cared about the whole mom scenario, how I liked Loki was frustrated that he potentially got his mom killed, and what left a mark on him. But other than that, I don't have that much of a connection to Thor: Dark World, if you will, and sucks because I think the character, just on a basic fictional spectrum is a fascinating dynamic. It has such a rich mythology.
Right.
But again, we don't work in Hollywood, but from afar, we're going, damn.
Yeah.
Ooh, thank God I didn't spend a nickel on making that movie, because that's
right. Yeah, it just kind of like, and again, like there's nothing in there where I'm like, oh, that was so bad. Oh my gosh, can't believe they did that. But it's also just like, it's there, and I think maybe it's that like post Avengers thing that maybe they were struggling with, where it's like they didn't want to, right away jump into the next era, but they wanted to get movies out in between. And I think Iron Man 3, we talked about that last time, and like we quite liked Iron Man 3. We had a really good time with it, but it's definitely stumbles a little bit. Yeah. And then here it's like, oh, but we want to get another Thor movie out, so what is it about? It's like, just pull something out from the comics and just do that. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, it didn't feel like there's any passion behind most of the story that they were doing, and I think it's the first kind of view side of like some of the MCU humor that I don't think necessarily always works for me. It's like, oh, yeah, some of these jokes are just there to just break the tension. Like there's a lot of scenes in there where it's like there's a really deep moment happening, and then Darcy's just like, "Hey, look at me," and it's like, "Oh, that sucks." That was almost a good scene there. That all right. So
don't do that to Kat Dennings. I'm like, come on now, like.
I love her character. Last time I talked about Thor, I was like, I know she's annoying here, but I like her primarily because of what they did in WandaVision. Yes. I loved her in WandaVision. And hot take, I also liked her in that What If Howard the Duck episode, which I know is such a hot take. But
I've heard that, and I'm like, but like seeing what I know of Howard the Duck and knowing her, I'm like, it makes sense that she's kind of like the Beverly, if you will, to Howard and whatnot. So like, yeah. Kat Dennings, Darcy was never a bad situation in the MCU. It's just like, okay, you have her who's talented, give her material, give her something that doesn't take away anything from anything else, from another wholesome moment.
Agreed. So there's the Dark World conversation. If y'all are super huge fans of that movie, I apologize. It's just not my cup of tea inherently, and is my least favorite upon the 9 movies we've done in this retrospective so far. Moving on to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, I think I'm going to title this episode something like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but like I think it's going to be like, is this the best and worst MCU movie? Which I think is very funny that like the one movie that many people consider to be the worst, and then one of the movies people consider to be one of the best are back to back, which is very, very interesting. And I feel like for many, this is the golden standard for the MCU. This 4 years, still to this day, people are like, this is just like the Winter Soldier. This has the same vibes of that project. Yeah. And every time that gets me excited, because that does bring me back to like, oh, really? They're coming back to this. This is amazing. So just like very general opinions on this movie, and then we can obviously get into some of the like deeper stuff here in a second. What is your opinion on Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
I really, really dug this movie. It's weird to me. I think Cap has the strongest trilogy in my opinion.
Yeah,
I love the Guardians one, but consistently, like as a whole, you can rotate it around. Like I'm one of the few that I think I still kind of prefer the first Avenger over the Winter Soldier. But having said that,
oh wow,
and again, this is what I was saying about Thor: Dark World. This film, you don't have to have been a fan of the first one. You can go this one, and yet you get to know you know everything you need to know, and yet you care for what's happening with the characters and the scenarios. And that's the best thing. That like, oh, but this also has an effect on how Steve sees the world, how he sees the team onwards. And there's a little bit of that like trickles down, and when you get to Age of Ultron, he sees that of like the Avengers are supposed to be different than S.H.I.E.L.D. That's the whole point. And I love this movie. I love it because I'm also a cinephile. And so like I remember when I was watching it and I eventually saw a movie called The 3 Days of the Condor, a 70s movie. It's very much like this. And I think even the rest of it, oh yeah, that was a big inspiration for this movie. The fact that they even got Robert Redford in it. He's the main guy in that movie. And it's just like, oh yeah, this feels like a very 70s espionage thriller. And I think it's some of the best stuff Scarlett Johansson has done as Natasha.
Agreed.
great introduction to a character like Sam Wilson that like instantly you know where he's at, where he's been, and what he can offer the MCU. And I think something we talked about. Like we need more of what he went through, and we got it in Falcon with the Soldier. We need more of that, and it's gonna be especially fascinating when he's now potentially the leader of the Avengers. What he can offer them now, because one of the first few meetings we see him, he's a consultant. He's at the VA helping out, veterans, if you will, and that's such a fascinating thing. And I mean, to me, I love the scene where he's like, Trouble Man, Marvin Gaye, best album, everything you need to know, and you see Steve putting down the thing there. I think it has the best Captain America suit. I think Chris Evans must have been relieved when he got the screenplay. He's like, oh yeah, this is up my alley. I can do a lot with this stuff, and it says a lot of what even Steve went through in the comics, where like he didn't trust the government, he didn't trust Shield and whatnot. But because he did that, he suddenly didn't become an anarchist. He was like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. And people mentioned that the speech, and like people think it's corny. When I'm like, no, that's Steve. That's not Captain America. Of like, the price of freedom is always high, but it's a price I'm willing to pay.
Right.
And I don't think I'm the only one who's willing to do that. And it's a wholesome one of like captain's orders when the whole SEAL agents like decided not to follow Robert Redford and Frank Grillo's characters, if you will. And yeah, I really dig the film. There's stuff that's easy, you can constructively criticize, of like the look of this film, how eventually affect MCU, and be like, we don't need this grain type of stuff. But then, oh my God, the choreography and how much Sebastian Stan brought to this. And this is a scenario where I think we've always said like the MCU did too many end of the world scenarios. But what I love about this one, it's just like, no, this is about trust and about what happens when your opponent right now is the closest thing to a brother you have, and you thought you lost him. Like, now what does that mean when your path to haunt you? And what does it mean for you to put the red, white, and blue? Where do you stand? It's so rewatchable, and I think it doesn't make. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it makes my top 10, but I know it's in the top section of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always watch it, but when it does come up, it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, I'll stop what I'm doing and watch where it's at and see where it's at. And I commend that a lot to the crew and the cast of the film.
Agreed. Like this is in my top 2 personally. Like this one is like, and maybe it's nostalgia a little bit. Like this is my top 3. Like I think it was in like the first 3 I ever watched in terms of Marvel movies ever. Along with like the first Avengers and the first Guardians, and I watched this as really my first introduction to Captain America, and like it is a good starting point. Like I think you brought up a really good point where it's like you can kind of watch this in isolation and you can probably have a good time, and I think it does a good job at introducing all the characters. Yes, this is Captain America's 3rd outing, but it does such a good job at introducing the character to the new audience. Like, and I think maybe the newer stuff should maybe take notes on what this movie did. Like there's that great scene where they're like recapping the events of the first movie, but it's like in universe, and it doesn't like hit you over the head the previously on, but it's like, no, he is like looking upon this information and reflecting on his life, and like it's reintroducing you to Bucky. And like, yes, there's many characters in here. Like you have Maria Hill, you have Nat, and you have Nick Fury, but like I feel like this could be your first introductions to all 3 of those characters, and you'd be okay. And I think they do a good job at kind of letting you know everything you have to know about these characters. And you're right, like just to echo everything you said, because you obviously, I think you hit all the like main points here. It's like the style of this movie is one that they have yet to fully replicate in the MCU. Like I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier came really close into what they were trying to do. Secret Invasion tried, and I think utterly failed, in my opinion, to kind of replicate that style and that vision. This definitely feels like Natasha's first real movie in the MCU. Like, it's been a big criticism throughout this rewatch that she has been more of a quote unquote like sex object comparatively to like an actual character. And it's like, yes, there's still some of that in here. Like, there's definitely some appeal still, obviously, but she becomes an actual force in this movie, an actual character. And I really enjoy her and Chris Evans' banter and back and forth. And I think it's one of the foundations of the MCU going forward, going into Civil War, going into Endgame, is like a big part for those two characters as well, which is, one of my favorites. You're 100% right about Sam. Like, this is such a, like, I don't know, like, for like people saying that Sam shouldn't be Captain America, like, rewatch this movie,
Yes.
and very instantly I'm like, oh no, he's Captain America. Like, I love that scene where he's like, I do what he does, but slower. And I think that's such a good, like, oh yeah, no, he was on his back day one. He was up for it. He was up for the cause. He had everything to lose. He wasn't, super special. Yeah, like, yes, he was trained, but like not trained to the extent of like a Steve or a Nat or even a Nick Fury. He was just a guy. He's like, yeah, I'll do this. Let me help you. And I think it's such a good introduction to a character like this. And you love him instantly. So
Yeah.
like I love him in here.
I love even the dynamic with that scene of like, I can't ask you to do this, Sam. You got out for a reason. And he goes, dude, Captain America needs my help. There's no better reason than to go back in. And I just like,
yeah.
And I think even Steve like appreciates that. Of like, okay, like we like each other and we have respect each other, but like you respect enough to be like, all right, I'm trusting you. I'm like, let's go. What do you need?
Yeah.
And to me, that's something that I hope we get more of in the future with him as Cap. And like, opposed to like, you don't even have to replicate the mood and vibe. You don't have to do another espionage thriller. Just like look at what this film, and I think you even mentioned it, the first Guardians. First Guardians is a similar thing where like you care about the characters. It's that movie could have been its own thing.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I would have been like, great sci-fi movie. I can't believe they made me care about a talking raccoon and a talking tree, but what a great sci-fi movie that had heart. And it's, oh, by the way, it's just complimentary that it's part of the MCU. And it pays off stuff when worlds and characters collide and whatnot. And I think and this one, as a Stephen Strange mention, I remember going,
yeah,
oh, Doctor Strange,
years before the movie actually comes out. What is it, like 4 or 5 years before? Like, it's crazy. And I think you're right. Like, I love the bit with like everything with Sam in this movie. I think is so good, and I like how they really nail home very early on. He is like Steve, where he just gets back up. Like, he is just a guy, and he keeps getting back up. Like, I love the scene where he's fighting, not Crossbones yet, but what will be Crossbones, right? And he's like, yeah, come on. He keeps getting back up. He's like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, just shut up. like that felt very Steve Rogers to me, and that very Captain America coded, which I love. Samuel L. Jackson as well, I think, is one of his best appearances as Nick Fury. That scene was like in the first act when it's him in the car and all the secret Hydra agents are coming after him. That is better than anything in the Secret Invasion series. And like, I was even thinking here, I was like, I wonder if they should have just killed him off in this movie. Like, I love him so much, but I was thinking, like, he doesn't do a lot after this. Like, this is, I feel like, his last like major project, because he doesn't really come back until Endgame after this, right?
He appears in Age of Ultron as almost
a little bit
consultant, if you will, and then he brings the helicarrier for evacuation and whatnot. But like, yeah, and to me, this film also emphasized Maria Hill a little bit, and like I for sure thought it was gonna be the passing of the torch. Maria was gonna be the head of Shield or the one that's be now in charge, and it would have been such a great dynamic to be like, oh, in Avengers when we first met her, she doused the team. She doused them. She doesn't trust them. And eventually she starts, connecting. She works for Stark. She starts being part of like it's almost someone that they can rely on and trust. And even to me, it goes in with the escape scene where she kicks the guy up. She's like, ow! She's like, who's this guy? And they bring him to find Nick. So yeah, there's so much. It's a great. Kobe Smulders is great in this one as well. And it sucks. Oh man, what they did in Secret. Like I felt that was just such a missed opportunity of like, there you go, there's a feature right there, and like you didn't have to kill, you don't even have to kill Nick Fury. Just retire,
Right.
and be like, I did what I did already. I've done enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Great music.
Yes.
I think Marcus McFeely also wrote this one as well. I think yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
were all three caps. Great work with that. Again, I want to say that the choreography, the elevator scene before we get started,
Yes.
before
Yes.
we get out, and just like, oh man,
So good. It's such a good like ticking clock. To like, they could have easily have everyone like coming out once, and it makes it obvious. But I like it's like three different things, and you slowly see him like he like sees the like sweat on the men's face, and slowly like both sides are realizing that each other knows, and it's like shit. All right, who's going to start this shit? It's so good. It's so arguably one of the best scenes in the MCU.
yeah,
I would uh, yeah, like it's so good. And then like you already said, like the fight scenes are also like arguably still the best like choreographed fights in the MCU. Like to this day, I think the only thing that comes close is like maybe Shang-Chi if you don't count the original Daredevil show. Like I think, those three are like, you know, it's at its peaks and stuff like that.
like the Warner in Volume 3 of Guardians,
That's pretty
like
good.
that fight as well.
Guardians has some good ones for sure. Bucky is also good. I think that this is an interesting one for Bucky because in the first Captain America movie we had talked about where like he's good in this movie, but we thought it was his not his worst MCU appearance, but just the one he didn't have a lot to do in there because he is just like the friend character, right? So he didn't have a lot to do there, and so I think going into this one, Sebastian does a lot without doing a lot, if that makes sense, right? Like he's not having these big dialogue scenes. A lot of it is just the action stuff, but he says a lot by not doing a lot. Like it's all like his acting, like in his eyes and in his expressions, and that final scene on the helicarrier when it's diving down, and Steve's like, I'm not gonna fight you, buddy. Like and I remember there being a big conversation of like, oh yeah, like Steve wanted to die there. It's like no, he didn't want to die, but he was willing to die for him, and like he was willing to sacrifice himself to at least attempt to save someone he loved. And I thought that was a really cool, kind of like a really nice parallel to that first movie where it's like he dove into the water for the world in that movie, and then he died for his world in that movie, and I think that's a nice little parallel there.
It's so quotable. I mean, how many times I can't even count how many times I've said I'm with you till the end of the line, like
Yeah,
like emphasize, hey man, I trust me, or you can count on me and whatnot. Like so good. And yeah, I mean, the other one I think of is when he's sitting down and they're gonna like scramble his brain, and he goes, I remember him, I knew him. He kept saying, I knew this guy, who is he and whatnot.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah, and again, they do so much with it with him in this one. Some might even say like, damn, we want more of the Winter Soldier. Like that is such a fascinating dynamic of like, what did he go through between that
yeah.
and the present time? And yeah, I think Sebastian. I think this one, really first showcase in the MCU how much of a talent he is, and then look at all the movies he's done outside of
Since then, right?
he's just like,
And we're still dealing with that stuff too. Like I definitely very much appreciate they don't just erase it away. Like to this day, I think he's still dealing through like Thunderbolts. He's still like, hey, I was those guys, right? Like I was these messed up freaks that didn't mean for this to happen to them, but it was happened to them nonetheless. Can I help them like Steve tried to help me? Like there's still that there.
yeah.
That is really, really fun. I guess Sharon Carter's also in this shit. It's Sharon Carter's a weird character because I thought all the stuff I disliked about Sharon was in this movie, and it was like, oh no, it's actually the next one, and I'll talk about that when I get there. But it's like I want to like Sharon. Like I like that actress, and she's cool on screen. Like she has some really cool fight scenes in this movie. But I think once it's revealed who she is, that whole stuff becomes a lot weirder, right? It's like, ooh,
Oh, her heritage and like it's like, oh,
mm-hmm.
this is a novella right now. Oh, Jesus, you really want to do this? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'd be more into Sharon if she just wasn't related to Peggy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone would be like, oh, okay, she's a love interest before she goes back to Peggy, right? And obviously, that Peggy scene at like in the first act is also incredible.
Dude,
That scene is so good.
that breaks my heart all the time because, like, which is why and you've been hearing me say it. I want Haley back as Peggy, as Captain Carter, done right, not like Multiverse of Madness,
Yeah.
but have just to give her that the more material in Doomsday or in Secret Wars to see some of that stuff still be affected by where this goes, where she goes as that version of Peggy, Margaret Peggy Carter, and
Right.
yeah, it was such a like. And again, you we've said it. You don't have to see the first film, but if you've seen the first film, that moment is so enhanced,
It's very hard.
so
Yeah.
enhanced, and like her saying, I just regret you didn't get to live your life, and then cut to when she does have dementia, and you're like, God damn it! And it's just like I couldn't leave my best girl behind. I want to just like, God damn job.
Absolutely.
It's all good and great. I don't know if it was VFX or actual makeup, but great work on that to make Haley look like that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was her. Like, I was looking at it, I was like, it sounds like her, it looks like her, but it can't be her. That looks way too good to be her. And yeah, they definitely do a good job at that. And as I'm kind of heading towards the end here, but like I do like that it's a movie about trust. Like, that's the theme of a movie like this, and I like that you kind of start the movie with that like confrontation with like Nick Fury, and it's like, I can't work with someone I can't trust, and Nick Fury's on the other side of that. It's like, I physically cannot let you in on everything that we're working on. I cannot let you do this. But like, Steve knows firsthand the dangerousness of a secret, and like what it can do, and what can become when there are secrets on the board. I think he kind of learns that lesson here of like, he doesn't necessarily grow from it, but he's like, I think he keeps it in mind. He's like, okay, I will try and keep that in mind in my future endeavors, which again sucks that Secret Invasion sucks, because that could have been a cool evolution of that, right?
Yeah.
Of just like, because it is again just like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 4, where it's like, this is a great evolution. Like, this is a better version of Secret Invasion than we actually got, and I feel like this movie is like that. Again, it could have been such a cool spiritual successor to that. Like, this could have been a moment where Sam or Nick is like, God damn it, not again. Like, we can't trust anybody again. I could have maybe prevented this, but this is on me this time. And it's like, oh man. Like,
and even like, what a great, also this one also offers great ideology. Like, to me, I thought we're gonna save a lot of lives before they're in danger. And he's like, I thought the punishment came after the crime. and like, so we're holding a gun to everybody, saying it's safe. And I love how even like Nick calls him out of like, I've read a lot of those files. Greatest Generation, you guys did a lot of nasty things back in the war. He's like, yeah, we compromised, but we did it to give people their freedom. Like, this isn't freedom, this is fear. And I love that even in the modern era, Steve like, no, it's not the way how we do things. And again, great foundational stuff to when we get to Civil War.
yeah.
And then his experience with Sam, I think, to me, pays off one of his best moments in Endgame when he's the counselor. Like, he talks about like, I met the love of my life in 46 or 45 before I went on the ice, and talks about like, the world is in our hands now. You have to do something about it, and like, you gotta do something. And like, a lot of you see a lot of those moments, you connect them right back to this movie. And
you're right. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much of how, like, I think it still holds up. I remember when Alicia Malone said it was her favorite MCU movie, and I was like, whoa. For me, as a cinephile, that meant a lot. I'm like, wow, she really dug this film. And again, costumes design is exceptional. They throw in something like very bleak, which a lot of people didn't remember, but I remember once I was starting to watch the war, I'm like, wait a minute, I know something is off. And then there's the whole hint of like, oh yeah, Bucky killed Howard and Maria
Right.
Stark, and it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love the there's no chemistry that's missing in this one.
Yeah. Oh
Even
yeah.
Sharon and Steve and
Yeah.
the house and whatnot, love that little like
Yeah.
flirtation and whatnot. And yeah, I like this movie a lot.
Me too. Yeah, and just like as like one of my final points here, like I do like at least so far in phase 2, I do like the consequences of the Avengers movie. Like I like that the last movie is like a consequence on Tony's character and what they did. Not so much the Thor movie, obviously, but like coming back to this one, where like I do like that everyone's terrified after the attack on New York, and it feels like the government would be like, yeah, what the fuck are we going to do? And it's like, the security will be up to a max, and like it feels like what Hydra is doing and what Nick is doing are not that far apart, right? Like they are one side of the same coin. And so watching him kind of deal with that of like, man, was I wrong? Like, was I this time kind of wrong? And I love that scene. What is it like at the start of the like third act when he's like, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this and this, and Steve's like, no, we're actually not going to do that. And they're all like, sorry, Nick, this time we're on him. And he's like, I guess you're in charge now. And
Captain,
it's like,
calls him Captain, like you say, it looks like you're the one giving the orders now, Captain.
Yeah.
And that look of Steve was like, oh fuck, okay, now I gotta make it work. And I even love that banter of like, what do you think I'm doing now? I noticed. He's like, how many people paid the price before you did? And I love that even Nick says like, listen, I didn't know about Bucky. He's like, hey, but if you did, would you have told me, or would you have compartmentalized that?
Yeah.
Like, Shield, Hydra, all of it's got to go.
He's right. Like he 100% would have been like, well, save that for a rainy day, because that's what he does. That's and that's why Nick is so interesting as a character. So yeah, no, it's this is a special one, and like, I'm not going to say it's all downhill from here, because it's definitely not. There is a lot of great MCU movies to come, but this is I think it's my number 2, just because I love Infinity War so much. Like that is like, I think this might be the best MCU movie, but I think Infinity War is my favorite, if that makes sense, just in terms of like comic book pulpiness and like what it means to love superheroes and what that movie does, kind of thing.
I can see that. Yeah, I love that you said that. This was a great statement of like what you can do in the comic realm of like, just do an espionage movie.
Yeah.
Just do a movie about trust. It just happens that some of them wear costumes.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the best. It's what I love. What these characters, these worlds can do.
Yeah,
like, you have to do one thing. And like again, I think one easy critique you can say, if maybe like it's another quote unquote end of the world thing, but you'd be like, no, just government that had to make a different gun. And now it's their jobs to be like clean it up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And to me, it's more character driven than plot driven, if you will. Although there is a lot of plot in it.
Yeah, and it's very personal, which I think is what sets them apart from like your like end of the world stories, where it's like, you can look at like the Avengers, and like I think like that movie, as good as Loki is, sometimes you kind of lose the plot a little bit when it comes to like what are they fighting for and stuff like that. Where this one, well, yes, the main threat is that the world is going to lose millions of people. The main thing you're worried about is, can Steve get through to Bucky? Like, can he heal that relationship? So I think that's pretty cool for sure. Absolutely. So I think with that being said, I do think that kind of brings us to the end of today's episode. Is there any other things about this movie that you want to shout out, that you want to promo, that you want to... I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Is there any final thoughts on this movie before we move on to our final thing here?
That's okay. Yeah. I love the use of Trouble Man and by Marvin Gaye. I love pop music going on, and when they use it well, it's enhanced. And so I love how it was used to the end. I love, on your left in the beginning and at the end. I love See, even the effects from Iron Man 2 with that senator showing up and he gets
Hmm.
arrested. Um, I love Natasha going to Capitol Hill and basically telling them like to kiss her ass. I'm like, you're gonna put me.
That was cool. Yeah.
You won't because you need me. He's
Right.
like, don't worry. When you all need me, I'll be there. It
Right.
just and again, a lot of stuff goes into Civil War of like Tony. We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
Right.
Um, yeah, this one I think it's a special one. Russo Brothers first film,
First
and
appearance. Yeah.
and what a way to make an entrance because they had done, I believe, Community before that.
Yeah.
Um, you see that DNA even and when they do something like Extraction with Netflix and Chris Hemsworth. But yeah, I love the opening morning run. I love again. There's some stuff that like not jokes for the sake of jokes, but just nice clips of like Sam, but like there's breakfast if y'all eat that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I love the moment of Natasha saying, "You saved my life," and Steve being, "No, it's okay." He's like, "If it would have been reversed, and now you be honest, would you have trusted me?" And he says, "I would now,
Mm,
and I'm always honest." And I love how you said that. Now I would, and
that's nice.
I'll always be honest with you. And I love the whole the kiss scene of like, was that like, I'm gonna ask you something. You don't have to answer it, but if you don't answer it, you answer. He's like, what? Was that your first kiss since the 40s? Like that bad, huh? He's like, no, it's not bad. It's not.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm 90. I'm not dead. And I love, and we're renting this foot off the thing. When I
Yeah.
love.
So many of those like little banters that just make a movie like this up. Yeah.
They could have easily made Natasha and Steve a thing, and in some regards, I wouldn't have blamed them. But the fact of restraint,
Mm,
no, they're good friends. That says a lot about like restraint and
hmm.
leaving it more to that because you can see this movie also again have an effect in Endgame when having that talk of like I think we both need to get a life. She says you first. It's like
Yeah.
oh so good.
And does such a good job. And I think sometimes like I think it's probably the best like team up Marvel movie, I guess, because it's a character that like sometimes with these team up movies, these characters are appearing in other characters' movies, and sometimes they steal the focus a little bit, like your Hulk and Thor 3, right? Where it's here like we have Scarlet or we have Black Widow in here, we have Nick Fury in here, we introduce Falcon, but it's still Cap's story. At the end of the day, he is in like every single scene here, and it doesn't feel like, oh, but it's a Black Widow and Cap. No, it's just Captain America movie, and she is such a good supporting character, which is really cool to see. And just a final thing I will mention just on this topic. Shout out to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 1. Like I will forever associate this movie with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what a companion piece that series is, where it takes like the whole season is building up to this big twist. And I wasn't watching live, but like that episode aired, I think pretty sure like directly after the movie came out, and it's like, holy shit, this big thing happened in the movie, and then you can come home and watch this episode on it. It's like, this is crazy. And like I don't know if you've seen that like that series, but the like twist that revolves around this whole Hydra story. And it's such a ballsy thing to be like, okay, we are pitching an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but they're only actually S.H.I.E.L.D. members for one season, official S.H.I.E.L.D. members for one season, and then we're doing Hydra. Like, this has been a thing for the whole run of the show, and that twist is like, holy shit, this is crazy.
I haven't seen it, but I heard that. I remember even the first few episodes, like, one of the guys is a Hydra agent. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Was that effect? I remember the show affected that. It affected going into Age of Ultron, and so
Civil War. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, with that being said, that does kind of bring us to the end of our episode. Ronan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for helping us out on this pre-recorded episode today. Obviously, you're working on a bunch of stuff. You have a lot of things cooking. Anything you want to shout out, promo, tease, what you got coming up next?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invite. I appreciate that. I just dropped the Life of Chuck review on short, and then I'll probably drop a longer one on YouTube as a main video. What else I have planned? Let's just say that And I've been saying for a while now that I wanted to do more manga and anime stuff. Don't be surprised if you see something of me talking about Black Lagoon, Don the Don. Uh, there's a lot of the stuff I do want to cover and watch. I know in a month I'll be at San Diego Comic Con doing that that feed of a weekend, and then yeah, I think in the next week I'm gonna have to be like asking a lot of my friends who are in media and be like, all right, what's the year look like? Give me a calendar. Like what's gonna happen now? Like I know there's more shows towards the fall, but I'm very intrigued to see how these next few weeks pan out in terms of dropping stuff for people here and there. I know for again a friend of ours is coming near to their 100th episode on their podcast for Council Creators, so hopefully that should be an interesting week for that. And I don't know, like sometimes right now this is before Superman and Fantastic Four drops, so we'll see how when those movies comes out and how much that's gonna affect the world of films with comic book characters, if you will. So yeah, I got plenty of anime stuff I got in the pipeline, and yeah, I'm writing a lot of reviews now, and I'm like, okay, I just gotta film this and edit it. How's that gonna pan out? So be on the lookout at Ronan on Chain on YouTube, on all the socials, trying to grow that more. And I have a cool little project in relation to anime and manga that I want to do later on. So yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, man. I haven't talked about Winter Soldier in a while, and I was like, oh yeah, this movie does rock. Oh yeah, I am pumped for this stuff about Doomsday. So it was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check out his channel. It should be linked inside the title if you want to go check out his channel and everything he's working on. In terms of our shows for the following week, as if this is coming out, it should be the week for our after the credits stream. We should be doing Ironheart. I think that will be Ironheart week as this is coming out. So I assume will be the first 3 episodes of Ironheart, so tune in for that. I don't know what else we're talking about. I don't know how far else we're into the other stuff on that show at this point, but Ironheart for sure. And then the pipeline that week, what will be episode 144, should be our Road to Superman episode, which we are going to go back through the history of the last year and 2.5 years and look at everything that's led into this upcoming Superman movie, from the Henry Cavill announcing he's back, to the casting of all these favorite people, to the trailers, to all this kind of fun stuff. Just reliving the road to this point as we celebrate the upcoming Superman movie, which should be a lot of fun. Last week, I haven't filmed it yet, obviously, but this Thursday we're doing our How to Train Your Dragon episode, obviously, so I hope that went well. Hopefully you'll check that out, obviously, if you haven't already, even though I'm filming that in a couple of days. So it's like, wait, what has come out yet? What hasn't come out? It's like, okay, this is this week, but it won't be this week for you guys then. So again, thank you, Ronan, of course, for being here. And yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye.